Nice to see you.
Great to see you.
I'm Dariia. This is Katarína Mathernová, the EU Ambassador to Ukraine. Today we are here for informal conversation as this year Young European Ambassadors Initiative marks its 10th anniversary. And
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you so much. And it is a great occasion to talk about its impact, experience, and what our initiative really means on the ground, how volunteers in Ukraine, young people, can communicate about EU in Ukraine through youth engagement, training, and work with young Ukrainians.
Great, let's talk.
Let's start. Madam Ambassador, could you please recall when you first heard about Young European Ambassadors Initiative and what struck you the most about it?
Well, I was one of the founders of the initiative 10 years ago. I worked in the European Commission as Deputy Director General. I had all of the countries that have young European ambassadors under me. That was the time when we thought what we can do with the youth. Colleagues came up with this idea and I was immediately encouraged by it and interested. And that's when we started in 2016. We started Young European Ambassadors for all the neighbourhood East, as we call it, which is Ukraine, Moldova, Belarus, and the Caucasus countries.
I joined the initiative in 2023. Actually.
How did you hear about it?
It was a very complicated process, I would say. At the time, I was studying in the National University of Lviv Polytechnic, the Lviv Polytechnic National University, and I have a lot of peers, a lot of my colleagues that have already joined the initiative. But at the time, I was not really confident, despite I was an active student, but I was hesitating for almost a year to joining the initiative. But finally, after the full-scale invasion, I thought that I think I should change something in my attitude, first of all, because now we are in the situation when the war is here, and we should do something to have the prospect for the future and for the European future that is more important.
Well, Ukraine applied for EU membership 4 days into the full-scale invasion on 28th of February. So it makes sense that you joined the initiative. Any regrets?
Not at all. Actually, I would say that it was one of the best decisions I've made in my student year. It gives me enormous contacts, enormous possibilities to meet different people in Ukraine, but also abroad. It was really interesting to get acquainted with different people from different backgrounds, different regions, as you said, different countries, starting from South Caucasus to the Great Britain even, because we have some young European ambassadors there. It was quite interesting. And what did you surprise the most about these people when you meet them? Is there something unique about them?
As you said, they are all those who decided to take initiative and join a grouping and like to interact. I particularly like when some of your colleagues traveled with me to different regions. And I think the group is characterized by just being interested in not only their own student life, but public affairs issues and the European Union.
Yeah, I would like to highlight that I know that you travel a lot. You are not seated in Kyiv. You visited a lot of different regions of Ukraine. You've been in Zhytomyr a couple of weeks ago.
Yes. By the time I leave my post, I hope to have visited all regions of Ukraine, with the exception of Crimea, because I've been to Luhansk, I've been to Donetsk, but I have not been to Crimea, but I want to do all the other ones.
Hopefully in some years we would like to see you as like a part of delegation in Crimea for the big Ukrainian forum. It would be really interesting. And may I ask you about your experience in regions? Is there anything you could recall that you have get to know during your regional trips that you can get there in Kyiv in the official setting?
What strikes me, and this is true of every single region I went to, whether it was Kropivnitsky or Khmelnytsky or Volyn or Cherkasy, we were great supporters, and me personally, I have worked very much in support of the decentralization reform that started long before the full-scale invasion. I always believe that it's one of the most transformative and impactful reforms in Ukraine. And in the regions you see it. You see the self-organization, the volunteerism, the life in the communities, the way they can adjust to bringing in IDPs and have all sorts of communal, regional, etc. activities. And in every single region I hear the same story, that we would not have been able to resist the Russians so well when the full-scale invasion came if it wasn't for decentralization. And this is really a theme I hear over and over again wherever I go.
Thank you for mentioning Kropyvnytsky, because I'm originally from Kropyvnytsky. It's not really a big city, but as for me, it's my little motherland, so-called. And actually, in Kropyvnytsky, we have quite a lot of YEs that are doing their work. They are interacting with peers, creating possibilities. Could you say a couple of words about how do you see the future of these Ukrainians, young Ukrainians who are now creating these possibilities, not only for themselves? Is there any desires that young Ukrainians could have in a couple of years, or with their interaction with European peers, European people, when we are going to be hopefully in one big European family?
Well, I can see several avenues. First of all, today when we are recording it is the International Day of Women in Diplomacy. So hopefully several of you will enter the diplomatic service. Other parts of the government go into the private sector. But once you are in the European Union, I hope that many of you will join the European Commission and other institutions to work for the EU, as I have done, a couple decades ago, when Slovakia, my home country, became a member of the European Union.
That's really inspiring. Thank you for this vision for Ukrainians. We're really hopeful that it will become a reality one day. And you mentioned about diplomatic today's holiday, and about also diplomatic prospect that could be happening to young Ukrainians. As today we are celebrating the International Women's Day in Diplomacy, as you mentioned, could you give maybe a couple pieces of advice for young women, Ukrainians and Europeans who are building their own path to be in diplomacy, but still are not really sure what to start with, where to go, where to find the opportunities?
Well, I didn't start my life in diplomacy. This is my first diplomatic posting and last diplomatic posting, because I cannot imagine any other diplomatic posting after Ukraine. So I'm not the typical person who went through the government diplomatic track. I worked in private practice in the United States, private practice of law, and then I joined the World Bank. After that, I joined the European Commission, then went back to the World Bank, then went back to the Commission, wow. And now I came here. So my career perhaps is not the most typical, but what has always worked for me is taking opportunities when they come. Don't be afraid. Believe in yourself. Women tend to be very shy about selling themselves. It's funny when I look at self-report by a male colleague and a female colleague, the difference in tone and self-assuredness is quite striking still. So try not to do that. Network with people and keep up the good spirits, and there is really nothing that we cannot do.
Thank you for this advice. Actually, I believe that it's very useful for me. It will be, and it is. And actually now we are living in very historical time when the EU opens for Ukraine the first negotiation cluster, and it's not surprising. It was the milestone we were going to very long, very a lot of time.
2 years.
2 years. Surprisingly, we're still on the track. We're still seeing our future in Europe. How do you see this milestone for Ukrainian society? Is it something we should do more? We should push more to to be closer, to be more fast in European Union?
Well, I think you should still, you should keep the belief and the desire and keep up the pressure on the system, on the authorities to actually continue on the reform track. But that is what's happening. I mean, we all read the opinion polls. They're very consistent, both on the desire to join the EU and on the commitment to reforms. Mm-hmm. Last summer, we saw your peers, 18, 19, 20-year-old come to the streets to protect reformed institutions. So the spirit is there, and just keep at it.
Your favorite word of Ukrainian language?
Будь ласка.
Ukrainian food.
Борщ.
City in Ukraine.
Ivano-Frankivsk.
Place in Kyiv to sit to have a coffee.
Coffee, honey. Favorite place to sit in the botanical garden.
Thank you so much.